We're ready? Well, good afternoon. The murder of George Floyd, and so many before him, is going to continue there at the heart of this country until there's justice for Mr. Floyd and real reform to our criminal justice system. But as far as justice for Mr. Floyd, I think a big step forward was taken this week when the do-nothing Hennepin County prosecutors were removed from the case. And it was turned over to Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. And longtime Detroiters know Keith Ellison is a son of Detroit. He was born and raised here, went to high school here, graduated from Wayne State University. The Ellison family is still very much a part of the city. Dr. Leonard Ellison, one of our most prominent doctors. When Keith Ellison went to Minnesota and practiced law and ran for Congress, he became the first Muslim elected to Congress in American history. He is a man who has fought bigotry and discrimination his entire life. And now the cases have been moved to the Attorney General. And I think the people of Detroit are going to be very proud of seeing what a son of Detroit does in finally prosecuting these Minnesota cops. But of course, that's only one step. For another night last night, Detroit stood out in the national narrative. We had a remarkable march to end the systemic racism in our criminal justice system, and we did it with no violence. 10-mile march. Nobody threw a stone. Nobody attacked anybody else. Nobody shot any tear gas canisters. We can do this without tearing down our city, and it was a special night because the protest wasn't led by the normal groups. It wasn't led by adults. It was led by a group of young people, our next generation of leaders, and I'm feeling like the future of the city may be in good hands. Our success last night was also due to the presence of Detroit community leaders, and we can't make any mistake. As that march was going along, and I think the reporters all reported that, you could see it on Facebook Live, there were people in that group advocating for confrontation, advocating for violence, advocating for damage. It was strong Detroiters who stood up and over said, we're not doing that. And as they started to near the point on 3rd Street near the police, and I'm just watching on Facebook Live, probably like a lot of you, and I see somebody coming through the crowd with a megaphone trying to figure out what they said. And I realize it's Trick. And he's delivering a message that says, we're not tearing down my city. It was such a message of Detroit pride. It carried through. And I realized we have a no meaning for the no-fly zone. But when the group came to a stop, the leaders of the group, they were confronted, you could see it, with some disagreement. And Stefan Perez got a lot of attention, he deserves it, but there were two other individuals, a young man and a young woman in black shirts. I'm still trying to find out who they are in the hopes that I get a chance to talk to them. But in one, they were pushing people back. They were telling people with their megaphones, we are not doing this, we're going to disperse. And the woman in particular, she was barking at the protesters about dispersing. The police were giving a warning about disperse, and she turned around with her megaphone and snapped at the police and told them to chill out, basically, that she was dispersing, turned back to the protesters, and she was fearless. I mean, she was just magnificent. And I hope the media will seek her out and see her story. I don't know her name. I'm going to find out. But it makes you feel good. about where we're going. But we all saw the young man with the big hair and the red shirt darting all over, and clearly a leader in this. And when he got on his box and urged people to leave, and they left, and it was over, a friend of mine, Tucson Knight, was there, and I just called him on his cell phone, and I said, "Who is the guy in the red shirt?" And he says, "I just met him tonight, he's a young guy, Stefan." I said, "What I just saw, I'm never going to forget. Do you think he'd be willing to talk to me?" He said, "I don't know, I'll go ask him." I had no idea he was being filmed on camera, and I had no idea that my conversation was being recorded, but the first thing he said to me is, "I'm 16 years old." I thought from watching me, he had to be 24 or 25, the poise in leading that. I thought, 16 years old, and he just wants a world where he doesn't have to be afraid when he's stopped by a police officer. That's what he's fighting for. And we are watching the next generation of this city's leaders emerging before our eyes. So, while last night ended very positively for Detroit, and nobody was happier than the Detroit Police Department, who I think are all enormous admirers of the protesters and the way they stood for their beliefs last night. But we have to be not under any illusions. You just look at what's happening around this country. There are people intentionally sowing division and destruction. There is no question about it. My fellow mayors tell me in the last 24 hours, you're starting to see anonymous text messages listing where radicals and revolutionaries should gather to protest in different cities. We got the first one here in the city of Detroit today. It is a national group trying to get destruction. And when you get an anonymous text message that says, "Be here to protest," it's ask, who did this? And is it somebody I trust? But they're trying to create so many different places that there will be chaos. We saw nationally a posting from Antifa calling for violence. And then the investigation showed it wasn't Antifa at all. It was a white supremacist group that faked the website to create animosity toward Antifa. These folks are trying to get us to tear at each other and to tear down our cities. And this is the reason why Chief Craig and I have not a single time suggested who the groups are or accused the group, because the truth is, we don't know who they are. What we do know is they are very much on the ground. They are very much trying to instigate. And just as the national groups are hiding anonymously behind text messages and internet posts, the people on the ground in Detroit with the railroad spikes and the fireworks and the walkie-talkies, they're hiding under the cover of darkness. We learned Friday and Saturday night. They will till darkness to do the damage. And so we don't have any choice but to operate under this curfew, because we have to be able to confront the threats to our city of the daylight in order to keep this safe. But while we had success at yesterday, we're going to remain at risk every single day. And every mayor in every city in the country knows you're at risk every single day. But we learned last night that the best check against the violence isn't the police. It's proud Detroiters standing up for their community while they protest, demanding change for America. And so yesterday, what I know is this. On a day when the President of the United States delivered a message of hatred and division, some young people on 3rd Street in the city of Detroit showed true leadership, demanded change, but did it in a way that's filled with love. And it's just too bad that we can't get a president who could take a lesson from our young people. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief James Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll be brief. Certainly, I want to start out by just really thanking Detroit. I've had a chance over the last 48 hours to do a lot of national media, and I will tell you the thing I was most proud of, not just being a Detroiter, but the fact that I'm saluting those Detroiters who have just said we're not going to accept violence in our city. And it's demonstrated by their actions. I know the mayor has talked more extensively about examples of how our community has come together, and I share his gratitude for that. Joining us today is certainly our ceasefire folks who have just done a phenomenal job. So I want to give you a heartfelt thank you from the Detroit Police Department and myself for really making a difference. So thank you. And also, I'd be remiss if I will always thank my partners, people I work with each and every day, both the sworn and civilian members of this great police department, who once again, as the mayor indicated, we had a peaceful march, no incidents, and for that I'm grateful, but I'm also grateful that, the leadership was clear. Once again, patience, without overreaction, and those things really go a long way at fostering trust. So as I close, I would just want to acknowledge my partner, Deputy Chief Bettison, someone who's been on the ground, who really coordinates our community leaders, our activists, in such a way that I know has made a difference. I've gotten calls from chiefs from other cities, most recent in the last hour from my friend in Memphis, who applauded my comments, but also wanted to understand what's different about Detroit. And certainly I was busting with pride to share that, we have relationships with our community that didn't just start because of this situation, didn't just start because of COVID-19, but this is part of what we do each and every day. And many times when departments respond to, instead of proactively understanding that trust is not built overnight. Even though I was born and raised in the city of Detroit, and after being gone for an excess of 34 years, I had to establish that trust. Graduating from Cass Tech didn't hurt, but not Catholic Central. It's nice to be able to laugh, but it really makes a difference. So I'm a proud Detroiter and certainly proud to be your chief of police. But we've all heard the story recently, and with the work that Deputy Chief Bettison has done, certainly supporting our protesters, as we all do, for the senseless murder of Mr. Floyd. So Deputy Chief Bettison is here today to kind of talk about his experience on that day. So with that, I turn it over to Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I'm just so proud of our city. The fact that we experienced a night without violence, just to see the protesters protest First Amendment for George Floyd, just proud. And it's just amazing how we as Detroiters have really pulled together to let everyone know how much we love our city. I love this city, love this department. And so, day before yesterday, when I walked from headquarters outside and I saw the protesters lined up on the front line, and I saw our mobile field force lined up in opposition, saw Commander Hayes with the white hat. Everybody knows Commander Hayes with the white hat walking back and forth. I assessed the situation and I said, this is not good. It's not good. And I'm like, I have to do something. We have to. I didn't want any violence. I went to the front and I saw organizers, and I saw a lot of angry people. You know, I saw the, you know, protesters, and I listened and I heard what they were saying. At first I didn't hear, but they were saying, kneel with us, kneel with us, kneel for George Floyd. Just, if you just please kneel with us, we will leave. Just please kneel. And I said, I don't want any violence. And I said, these officers, all of us, our heart aches. I said, I was disgusted by what I saw. So tactically looking, I'm saying my men, my men and women, they can't kneel from a tactical position. I said, but as the highest ranking person here, I will kneel on behalf of the department, the city of Detroit, and all of our citizens. Everybody, I will kneel. And I did. It was emotional. And afterwards, some folks wanted to take pictures, and they were, you know, you got, as the chief described, you have protesters that are there for the right cause, and you have criminals that are intent on their own agenda with violence for the wrong cause that are intermingled. We know that that's a small percentage of our good folks that are out there. So I was addressing that larger majority, that we as Detroit police officers, we feel what you feel. I expressed that Chief Craig called it for what it was. The first police chief in the nation said it was murder. When I saw it, I knew it was murder. The first day, the mayor called it out as murder. We were the first in the nation. I didn't understand why the protesters were angry at us, Detroit police, when we worked so hard in the community to connect. And I tried to relay that to them, that we're not the problem, we're here with you. We don't want to be in this place, this space, but I understand the anger for what happened to George Floyd. So with that being said, I kneeled, and someone from the crowd tossed something, you know, at one of our officers, and the tear gas was deployed, and they dispersed. But my heart was heavy because I didn't accomplish what I wanted to. And Chief came, and I didn't even tell him I kneeled. It wasn't about that. It was about the love I have for the city. And I didn't know how my peers would react to me kneeling. But what I want everybody to know is that I've got nothing but love from white officers, black officers, everybody thanking me for kneeling to support George Floyd. Nothing but thanks. At that point, I'll end. And sorry for getting emotional.
Okay.
Okay. Deputy Chief Bedison is more articulate, maybe than I am and others are, but he reflects what is felt by the people in the city and the men and women of the Detroit Police Department. They identify with the marchers. They don't want to be in conflict, but we have to protect the city, and I'm hoping can have nights like last night that can end with us together. I have some other people to thank. This community is coming together. I want to thank Council Member Mary Sheffield and Horace Sheffield, who yesterday did a rally of a number of leaders in this community, including Trick and others, delivering the same message: we badly want change, but we're going to stand up and be proud of our city. And then Detroit City Council today, and we're going to get to Denise Fair, who's led such a successful effort to knock down COVID-19. We've been so successful now that our businesses are reopening. We're going to have restaurants reopening on Monday. Before very long, we are going to have the hair and nail salons and the barber shops. We're going to have our businesses reopen. We're running 1% infection rates, and if we keep with the masks on the protests, I think we'll be able to keep it there. And I've been so pleased to see the protesters being disciplined about wearing the mask. But in order for our restaurants, we got to get people back to work. We got to get our entrepreneurs making money again. But in order for them to open, they have to be at 50% capacity. Many of them are going to be very limited inside. And so we want to create as many outdoor seating opportunities to get more folks back to work. And in the city of Detroit, if you wanted to get a permit to put tables on your sidewalk, it was a 60-day, 12-step process. And if you wanted to close off part of the street, either by yourself or in conjunction with your neighbors, it took you about a year. Detroit City Council today unanimously passed a resolution to allow the city agencies to do 24-hour turnaround on sidewalk permits and very short turnaround on street closures. We want to get your businesses open quickly. We want to get your staff back to work. And we will have resources on our web pages by Thursday giving you all the details on how to do this so that we can get this open. And I will turn it over to the extraordinary health director who has led us through this crisis, Denise Fair.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just say that I am very proud today. Very proud to be a Detroiter. Very proud to stand with all of you. And I am really encouraged by what I'm seeing so far. Today we are reporting 11,097 cases and 1,380 deaths. For the last week, we have seen the lowest number of cases than we've ever seen. And that's thanks to all of you who've decided to practice social distancing. You've decided to remain committed to washing your hands, and you've decided to protect not only yourselves, but your loved ones. So you should be proud today. We're still seeing a really low infection rate amongst our seniors in our senior apartments. Just really encouraged, feel really good about what we're seeing so far, and we'll plan to continue testing until the middle of June. And now it's time to reopen. Detroiters, you're a big reason why the governor has uplifted the order. So for those of us in this community, we're going to see a lot of things move back to normal. Retailers are going to open on June 4th. Outdoor swimming pools will be open on June the 8th. Bars and restaurants will be open next Monday at 50% capacity. And we can now have large outdoor gatherings up to 100 people. Again, this is thanks to all of you who are being committed. Those are the things that we accomplished because, again, the city decided to take this seriously. So I do want to spend some time talking to our restaurant owners. We want you to thrive. The city of Detroit is behind you. So restaurants, as I mentioned, can open on Monday, and it's time to get prepared. You'll be able to open at 50% capacity. And as the mayor mentioned, thanks to City Council and DPW and CREO, now you can open up outside and offer a sidewalk cafe for your customers to dine outside. So beginning Thursday, you can go online and fill out an application for a permit at DetroitMeansBusiness.org. Again, that's DetroitMeansBusiness.org. You can go there on Thursday, and you can review the comprehensive playbook that'll give you all the guidelines that you'll need to keep your customers safe. So again, you'll have to maintain a few precautions, such as making sure that you maintain 2 feet between the general public, those who are walking on the sidewalk, and your first customer that's sitting down. And there's a whole host of other precautions, but make sure you go online to review that playbook. And again, right now, the restaurants will be at 50%, but we think we'll be able to extend that over time. Again, the city of Detroit is behind you. We are headed in the right direction, And we hope after not too long, we'll be able to talk to you all about reopening the barber shops and the hair and the nail salons. I know we waited a long time, but we want to make sure that we are safe and we're heeding the governor's executive order. So again, I'm really pleased to say that we are returning back to normalcy. Detroiters, you should feel really proud of the work that you've done. This is really good news, and let's keep moving forward. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the mayor.
Thank you, Denise. With that, we'll take questions.
Hello.
Uh,
Just have a question from NBC, Sheely Collin, and BuzzFeed, Scott Fame for Chief. Wondering if your department has a count of recent arrests from yesterday's protests.
What we made no arrests other than curfew violations. There were a total of 40, and of that number, some were, those tickets were taken back after we determined that there were some individuals trying to make it to their car. So after the protest ended, some were lagging behind and got caught up in violations, and we decided that we would remove the tickets. I don't have an exact number on what it was, but initially it was a total of 40.
Thank you.
That's actually our only question. ML Elric is running late. And,
All
doesn't
right,
have
well,
a
he
minute.
cut the news conference in half for all of us. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.